This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this date. And on this date, December 6th, in the year 1973, the NL voted to make a massive franchise shift. And it didn't actually come to fruition. As you can see, there is a picture of, if you're watching this and you see the visual, as you can see, the San Diego Padres. You see San Diego outfits, and then you see on the right-hand side, Washington. You're thinking, what's going on? Well, I'll tell you. So anyway, MLB.com did a good write-up about this whole thing, how San Diego almost went to Washington. This is how they explain everything. So they said everything stemmed from the approval of the A's move from Kansas City to Oakland in 1967. At the time, the American League decided to add two new teams in 1969, looking to appease Missouri Senator Stu Symington, who basically wanted to sue Major League Baseball for antitrust laws for moving the Kansas City Athletics to Oakland, like letting Charles Finley move the team to Oakland. So they decided to give Kansas City a American League team and alongside Seattle, putting an American League team out west to appease the West Coast fans and all that. But then the National League decided to add two new teams too, knowing the American League was going to add. So they voted on San Diego and Montreal to make it to the National League for 1969. You put a third California team in the West, you make things happen, and then you put a team in Canada, which was supporting minor league baseball for years. The Montreal Royals were one of the best International League teams around. They were the Dodgers farm system, if you will, bringing Roy Campanella and Jackie Robinson, and even Roberto Clemente before the Dodgers let him go from their minor league system, and Pittsburgh snatched him up. We're Montreal Royals. So anyway, a lot of people said that Buffalo was going to be the second National League team because there was like 9 initial votes. But Giants owner Horace Stoneham blocked out. They wanted a West Coast team. On the 18th and final ballot, San Diego won out and all that. So anyway, San Diego, like Montreal, was hastily assembled. Montreal was scrambling to find a major league ballpark site fitting like the fans. They settled on Jerry Park, which is kind of more of a municipal park, but they had to make it work, and they kind of did make it work. They slapped on scoreboards, they slapped left field stands, and they had room for 27,000 fans, far less than what you think today. San Diego also had to be assembled. Yeah, they were known as the Padres, that was the Pacific Coast League thing. And indeed, the Padres did struggle to the tune of a .367 winning percentage in their first 4 seasons. So they couldn't generate revenue and all that. Saying that they didn't have a corporate base for season tickets and sponsorships because they were hemmed geographically by Mexico in the south, the ocean to the west, the desert to the east, and the Dodgers and Angels to the north. And of course, their first owner, C. Emerald Smith, paid the expansion needed for launch the franchise, but did not want to spend the money needed for player development. All that. He was a crook and was convicted in 1979 on a felony count of grand theft and would only serve 8 months of a 1-year jail sentence. Yeah, there was a lot of problems. San Diego only had 1 million people. And they actually drew only 7,100 fans at San Diego Stadium in their first 4 seasons. And you got Montreal had problems, with Jerry Park being too small and all that. But at least the Expos drew 15,000 a game in the first 4 seasons. San Diego only 7,000. That's Montreal numbers in the early 2000s. So anyway, and of course, the owner Smith was being chased by the IRS for $23 million in unpaid taxes. So anyway, they actually said that the Padres were going to be sold to a Washington grocer and moved to DC at the end of the season. So of course, Washington bitter that they lost their team to Texas. Well, that Bob Short moved Washington to Texas, to Arlington, to play baseball in 1973. Meant that Washington needed something and all that. They were lame ducks. They had bad air and all that. And Washington would have the franchise. They would be called the Washington Stars, decent outfits, and they'll move in. But the question on my mind is, would they have stayed in the NL West? Because Washington definitely is there. Would definitely not be a Western team. But then again, I mean, Atlanta was in the NL West for years. Washington would face the Phillies on opening day, April 4th, 1974. And President Richard Nixon had to push the support, obviously. Everyone wanted to come with the Pandas or Nationals or even the Senators, but they went with the Stars. And Topps actually printed baseball cards of the 1974 team, identifying Padres players as members of the Washington team. There were 15 cards in the set. William McCovey and Dave Frisbin would be the other ones. Yeah, it was weird seeing the San Diego players like Randy Jones, Nate Colbert, Cito Gaston, and Dave Roberts. Not that Dave Roberts, William McCovey in San Diego, but then they were saying Washington. So that a lot of people said that the Senators would not be elected to a third term. I don't know why that name did not go far. But but Ray Kroc, who was owner of McDonald's, said, I think this team should stay in California. So Ray Kroc decided to open his wallet, buy the Padres franchise rights, meaning that Washington would be bit and San Diego would still have a baseball team. Ray Kroc even apologized on the PA system for how bad the Padres were in 1974. But Ray Kroc actually did things, and he made all the right noises with the city of San Diego and with McDonald's in general. But anyway, thanks to Ray Kroc, the Padres could stay in San Diego. And it took them a while to build up a fan base and build up a winning legion. In 1984, they won the NL West and shocked the Cubs in the NLCS, which was best of 5 at the time. They were down 2-0, but they had 3 games at home, so they kind of had a little bit of an advantage. Everyone knows what happened in Game 4 when Steve Garvey hit that home run off of Lee Smith, and Don Drysdale proclaimed, there will be tomorrow, meaning the 5th and deciding game. And of course, that was the game when the ball went through Leon Durham's legs. People don't talk about that as much as they talk about Buckner's through the legs. But then again, Buckner's was during the World Series. Leon Durham's was during the LCS. But the Cubs looked good. Supposedly, because of how the Cubs got the choke job, Major League Baseball decided to vote the LCS to be a best of 7 in 1985. If it was pre-85, it was best of 5, the Blue Jays would have went to the World Series against the Cardinals. Would they have won? Maybe, maybe not. But also, as I always state, if it was best of 5 in 1985, Ozzie Smith's pennant-winning home run would have been Ozzie Smith's home run to end Game 5 would have been a pennant-winning home run and would have given it top 10 status in history. But yeah, the Padres were bundling along in 1990. They had a good farm system, but then they decided to trade Roberto Alomar and Joe Carter to the Blue Jays for the one of Fred McGriff and Tony Fernandez. It worked out. McGriff played well for San Diego, then he was shipped to Atlanta in 93. Tony Fernandez was a decent Padres shortstop for a little bit, and then he got traded to the Mets. And ironically enough, Fernandez ended up in Toronto for the 93 season because the Blue Jays lost their shortstop, Dick Schofield, to injury. But yeah, the Blue Jays kind of fleeced him. Alomar became a great second baseman. Of course, that was during the time in Toronto. The spitting incident was not when he was in Toronto. And Joe Carter was the World Series hitter hero in 1993. What might have been if we didn't have Joe Carter. But yeah, the Padres spun their wheels 98. They won the NL, shocking Atlanta using House Bell's Trevor Hoffman to do the job. But the Yankees swept the Padres in the postseason. And I forgot to mention about San Diego in 84, losing the Tigers in 5. As for Washington, they would have to wait a long time. They would have to wait 3 more decades to get a team in 2005 when the Expos moved there. And let's not forget that Washington had the promise of an American League expansion team in 1977 because Seattle was tying the league in litigation over the fact they had moved to Milwaukee at the last freaking minute. So that meant Seattle and another city would get it. Washington would be bit as Toronto would get the expansion team because, after all, Toronto almost got the Giants in 1976. But a last minute deal by the city of San Francisco bailed them out of having to move. And let's not forget, 92, they almost moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, but were saved by a last minute deal. But yeah, Washington was bit because Ewing Kauffman of the Kansas City Royals, who was a good owner, his wife Muriel came from Toronto and told her husband about how good Toronto would be for an expansion team. And Kauffman put it into motion to make sure Toronto got their team after all. So poor Washington, I feel for you. But you won the 2019 World Series, and you made Montreal move to there. So fuck you. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.